right, guys. Well, welcome back to another week of the Foundation. Welcome back to another episode. Glad to be here as always. Jerry, my good friend and marketing expert here. Glad to have you on the show as always.
Thank you so much, Richard. Always happy to be here. Love
Yeah,
doing the podcast. A lot of fun.
yes, absolutely. We missed you guys. So we're here with one, I would say, one of my favorite topics and things to discuss. We're kind of both excited about this scaling up when and how to expand as agency owners and kiosk business that you mentioned a couple of times on the show here, Jerry. Knowing when and how to expand, excuse me, is super important in just kind of operating these types of businesses, of course, as well.
Amazing topic. And how you scale the your agency business, Richard, is different than scaling, for example, marketing agency or even the kiosk business or a restaurant business, which I also had a hand in.
Hmm.
So, each of these businesses have their own unique challenges in terms of scaling. So,
Hmm.
for example, the kiosk business, how you scale that up is you open more locations. How you
Hmm.
scale a restaurant business uh i- is you open up more locations, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's like if you have a brick and mortar business, there's only so much you can scale, right? Like if the addressable market is like anywhere, the addressable market for a restaurant, let's say it's like a 15 uh or let's say it's like, I don't know, 25-mile radius of the restaurant, right?
Hmm.
uh if you really saturated that market, and people are coming to your restaurant frequently, like how do you scale that up? Well, you open up another location, right? But how you scale a marketing agency, far different, far different. And I'm sure it's different to scale, how you scale an agency business like yours, an insurance business. I'm curious how the insurance business scales, because let's say you're at a certain level, can you just infinitely keep scaling that since it's, really just reaching more people throughout the country? Or,
Hmm.
how would you scale that?
Yeah, no, great question. So, for insurance businesses, I would say that for an agency as ourselves, we start by hiring more agents, hiring, the different positions for different processes. But increasing the team size and reaching more people is definitely the goal. So, have more marketing, things like that. And once you get to a point where feel like you're tapped out, there's always the avenue of now becoming the insurance carrier themselves, and actually selling the policy and then tapping into
Like being the
that.
Geico or the Allstate
Yes,
or,
yes, yes.
that specific policy provider?
Right. So you will actually provide the insurance. So when the client files a claim, you're writing the check. You're the company writing the check instead of connecting them with a
Mm.
carrier. Being the middleman, for lack of a better term, you become the carrier, and there's a lot of steps to get
Wow.
to that
What
point.
level do you have to be at to actually become a carrier? You
Become a
probably need to
carrier,
be doing like real big
millions
numbers.
and millions. You're talking about carriers are doing billions of dollars a year. So, you talking investors and big time investors, Warren Buffett, you know, um, you're talking about big and companies as well investing.
So it's
And
massively scalable, you're saying.
yeah, massively scalable. In insurance, people are always going to need insurance, because the economy survives on insurance, right? It's one of those stapler things in the U.S. economy. Borrow money, put money aside to take it out for when disaster strike, whether it be
Mm.
a death, whether it be an accident, whether it be whatever. That practice has been around since Roman times, right? That
Yeah.
practice has been around a very long time.
And that money that you hold for people in case of accidents, that gets reinvested. Is that
Yes,
correct? Because
yes,
that's a lot of what Warren Buffett does. Like, for example, when he got into Geico because of what's called the float, right? Like people
yes.
paying into it, and then you reinvest the float and make, I don't know, 2 to 5%, hopefully, hopefully more. But that float is there for claims, if I'm not mistaken. So anybody that gets into a car accident, that gets paid out from the float or the profit from the float, right?
Yes. So life insurance, it's a little bit different than car insurance and things. I know a lot more about life, but I would say life insurance, I know most companies, they have a reserve requirement by the federal government. You have to have a certain amount. Basically, if everybody were to die at the same time, you can pay out all those
Oh my God.
claims, right? You have to have that money in a account sitting somewhere. Now, the really good companies are going to have 5 times that, 7 times that sitting in an account somewhere.
What's
And
the
then
legal government requirement? Like how much do you need to have liquid?
you need to have liquid 100% of all, a dollar for dollar. So every dollar that the person
Oh,
takes
dollar for
out,
dollar.
dollar for dollar. So if you have 2 billion worth of policies in force, then you need $2 billion.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Instead
What
of
about banks? Is it different for banks?
banks don't have any requirement, any
Wow, they could have zero.
zero. That's why banks will actually
Wow.
put their money
That's why
in.
that's why bank runs will destroy a bank. That's why
Yes,
they'll call it a
yes.
bank closure.
So during the crash, the housing market crash was that 2008.
Hmm.
400 banks went out of business. 400 banks.
So everybody pulled out their money and they didn't have any
Yeah,
money to
yeah,
give out to lend out.
yeah.
They can't
They could
they couldn't
file
create money out
bankruptcy,
of nowhere.
couldn't do anything. Now, you know how many insurance companies went out of business, life insurance companies?
Zero.
Zero. Zero life insurance companies went out of business.
Because
'Cause they,
they're forced to have that asset, right? That liquid
yes,
cash.
yes. And not only that, people also still paying their life insurance. And if you're not paying your life insurance at that point, it's still not hurting the company. Life insurance, they'll reinvest the money that you pay because they're not really necessarily making money off of the payments made. They make money just like how the banks make money.
So
Same
they
concept.
maybe they buy bonds from the treasury bonds, and they make like 2 to 5%, right?
Yeah, so
Like
they buy
is that a
treasury.
way to like are they able to invest in an asset like
Yes, yes,
bonds?
yes. So they invest in assets. A lot of options. They buy a lot of options. The insurance companies would buy a lot of stock options, right? And bonds. There's some of that too as well. And they do have to disclose. So, federal government made a mandate after the housing market crash that the banks, the top 5 banks in America, like Chase and all those banks, had to disclose where they were actually putting a majority of their money. Like where were they keeping it safe, reserve those accounts and stuff. And you know where the top 5 banks were putting their money? Life insurance
Mortgage-backed
companies.
securities.
Life insurance companies. That's what they were doing.
Oh,
And so, and you have the thing about insurance companies, you have the life insurance companies, and then you have what is called a reinsurer, meaning these companies, all they do is insure life insurance companies or insurance companies. So they don't deal with the consumer, they deal with the one that's offering the insurance to the consumer. So if I'm an insurance company, let's say I'm
mhm.
an insurance company, you're a reinsurer, I'll come to you to buy insurance.
Wow. There's insurance and then reinsurance.
Yeah,
There's insurance for the insurance.
yes. So then if I go out of business, or not go out of business, but I get in a bad position where all my policy owners die, I have you insurance to get
They all
insurance
came
money to
to
get.
a building and the building fell down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very interesting to learn about how it is, and it's complex, but also simple to understand, easy to understand. Let me say that it's complex,
Yeah,
but easy to grasp the concept of it. So it's
that
very
makes sense.
scalable, very scalable.
So yeah, so by the way, how you scale a marketing agency is simply through marketing. It's basically, like how many uh how many calls did you generate? And it's basically scaling up the number of people that you talk to every month, and if one person runs a marketing agency and let's say they can handle 40 calls a month, right? You know, juggling service delivery and marketing, it's like how you run a marketing agency is based off of where the bottleneck is in the business. Is the bottleneck you need more clients, or is the bottleneck service delivery? Because once you have a certain number of clients, let's say I have, and I was talking to somebody last week about this, that, they asked, how many clients can you handle? One person can, like a one-man army, one-man business owner can probably handle like 6 to 10 clients. But
Wow.
the client results start dropping because you're limited in time, on how much focus and energy you could put towards one client. So the more clients you have, the less each client gets your individual attention. And so the bottleneck there becomes service delivery. So the first thing a lot of marketing agencies outsource, or at least in-house, or they get off their plate, is the service delivery. Once the service delivery is handled, then that opens up your time to do more marketing and sales, to do more sales calls. So, and once you reach another threshold of, oh, I can't take any more sales calls in the day, well, like Sam Ovens talks a lot about hiring only when it hurts. Well, what's hurting in the business the most? Well, the service delivery. I'm spending all my time doing service delivery. I can't grow the business. Okay, so the first thing you do, hire somebody to take care of the service delivery. That could mean a media buyer, a copywriter, a generalist, somebody to handle the service delivery. You're still involved with the clients, but in order to scale, you need to do more sales calls, and
Wow.
let's say now, as the founder, I have more sales calls than I can handle. Well, now that part of the business is hurting. It's time to hire another sales guy. Once your sales guy is brought up to speed, so at that point you have somebody helping you with service delivery, you have somebody helping you with sales calls. Now it's time to ramp up and fill their calendar. Let's say this guy now, let's say you and him are doing sales calls, but let's say you want to get yourself off sales calls. Well, now it's time to bring in another sales guy, and or even promote the guy to a sales manager or a sales lead. How it works is like is sales lead and then sales manager, right? And then above that is client success manager, right? So, you know, you scale up a marketing agency is scaling up services. It's very linear. So it's
Mhm.
like, uh outsource outsource service delivery, then sales calls, then grow the sales team. And the more you grow the sales team, the more clients you're going to get, the more help you're probably going to need with the service delivery. So, you basically hire where it hurts, use AI where possible. I know
I
some
was just
agencies
about to
that,
say, so that's very
absolutely,
good.
like,
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
use
How does
AI
AI
to.
really fit into kind of service delivery specifically?
Yeah, yeah, great question. Like, in the past, before AI, you would have copywriters, email writers, you'd have like somebody to work on CRO, like there would be all these things, right? But now you could really thanks to AI, you can condense all those tasks and improve your service delivery and save a lot of time, save a lot of payroll. Like, let's say you don't have to hire as many copywriters. You could have one or two guys handling service delivery. Nowadays, AI is so good that client success directors, they're called a lot of things in a lot of different industries, but adspend.com, they have two client success managers, and each one handles 50 clients. 50 clients. So it's really it's really scalable now thanks to AI. AI can help you write your landing pages, your copy, and you still need an expert to look through it and optimize it, change it, and make sure that the clients are getting good results. But scaling up a marketing agency is all about like the marketing, like the total addressable market. For let's say you're a marketing agency for dentists, that total addressable market will limit your scalability, right? Like, there's 50,000 dentists in the US. So let's say, let's say you scale up your marketing agency to 50,000 people. You basically own the market and you can't scale any further. At that point, you're doing, millions a year, right? You're crushing
Mhm.
it. But how do you scale past that? Well, you can go vertical and go, okay, I help dentists. Now I'm going to help uh optometrists, or now, now I'm going to help like orthodontists. So you could
Mhm.
scale vertically, or you could scale horizontally and go after similar niches to what you're currently doing. Or another way to scale is you scale vertically and say, okay, well, I help dentists generate leads. I'm going to go deeper into dentists. That's scaling vertically. Not only am I gonna help them generate their leads, but I'm actually gonna help them with hiring. I'm actually gonna help them with payment processing. I'm actually
Mhm.
gonna help dentists with their with the sales or with CRMs. Like that's scaling vertically. Uh, and so you could capture more market share by doing that, right? But there comes a time, like for example, Amazon, they own like Google owns search, like
Yeah.
96%, 90%.
Well,
And even,
not for very long. I heard somebody said that
oh, they
Chat
dropped recently.
GTP Chat GTP is starting to become a search engine because people go there
Yes.
and ask it stuff like it's Google.
I'm
And
glad
I'm
you brought
like,
that up
oh
because
man,
Google went from 90% to 89%. Now you might think 1%, who cares?
right.
Well, Google cares because 1% of search is like 300 million users. It's a lot of users, right?
Right.
Like a half a percent dip is millions and millions of users, and
Right.
that that indicates a bigger trend. I agree with you because every time I Google something, it's a pain in the butt,
Yeah.
to find what I'm looking for. This is like Google search is so trash that you start like the pages that rank on Google are the ones that are the most SEO optimized. So you get SEO slop. So let's say you ask Google how to hard boil an egg. That's a very simple thing, right? Well, you start getting these 20-page web pages, this 10,000 word slop about how to they win the SEO race by
Yes.
optimizing their page on how to hard boil an egg. But if I go to ChatGPT and ask it how to hard boil an egg, it's actually going to give me a really good answer. But
Right.
like if I Google the same thing because of SEO optimization, you end up with the highest ranking SEO optimized page. So a 10,000 word page on how to hard boil an egg, that's not what I want. If I want a banana bread recipe, which I just made yesterday, I had to scroll and scroll and scroll to get to the ingredient list, and I had to scroll and scroll and scroll to get to like how long am I gonna bake this thing for? And if I
Yeah.
were to ask
Absolutely.
ChatGPT that, it would have given me a clear and concise
All right.
answer.
Before you go any further on that, Google, listen, we can fix your problem. Come talk to us. And we're not going to give you give you the answer of how to fix your search engine problem when it comes to ChatGPT. Or is it? I always say it backwards. ChatGPT, right?
Yes, you
ChatGPT.
end up with SEO slop. That's the technical term, SEO slop.
Yes,
How to hard
Google.
boil an egg, 5,000 words.
Yeah,
And I
you're
was like,
you're
oh, and
yes,
you
you're
don't want
searching
that.
for the
You
other
just want
stuff.
an answer.
Yes. So
And
Google,
the great
you
thing
want
about
to fix it?
ChatGPT, these AIs are trained on all the internet data, like all the
Yes.
literally all the information that humanity has ever compiled, ever created. AI has been trained on it, literally. And all this data, it could fit on a thumb drive. It's not a lot of data. Like we actually ran out of data to train AI with. Now the new thing is artificial data. So data created by AI in order to train data further, to train AI further. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And one thing I would say that implementing an AI on these platforms, I see a lot of Bing, Google, and a lot of places doing it. That's not necessarily the answer. They're thinking, oh, to keep people searching on our platform, let's start giving it AI answers. Let's implement our own AI. It's like,
And they're eating their own market share
yeah,
because, 90, like a majority of their revenue, which was 140 billion last year. That's a huge revenue. They own 90% of it. All of it was ads. So so paid search, so
Mhm.
like whenever you see a sponsored post, whenever you see a YouTube ad, that's what that's Google's bread and butter. And by them offering AI, advertisers created a lawsuit against Google saying that, hey, this AI is actually hurting our ROI on this ad spend that we're spending with you. You're eating our market share here. So it like implementing AI is not even helpful to Google. And this is why they're the farthest behind in the AI race. Even Facebook's Llama models are ahead of Google for that reason. Like if
Yeah.
Google invests more in AI, they're eating they're cannibalizing their search profits. So Facebook has Llama, there's Claude Sonnet, there's obviously OpenAI, there's obviously XAI, and X is actually number two right now. ChatGPT is still number one, OpenAI is still number
Yes.
one, and then it's X, and Google, where's Google?
Yeah.
They lost the
Google
race
needs to.
already.
It needs to do. Google is in a position. I don't know if they were in a position before. You probably would know more than me. And I don't want to make this thing about Google and AI, but AI is just so interesting. But Google's in a position. I hope they were in a position to kind of run this AI market space. I mean, just all the big wigs were in a position at some point, just like um, the Blockbuster was in a position to buy Netflix. And
Yeah,
look at them now.
great
And
point.
and they did
Yeah.
not. And so now they have to go out of business. It's either, you absorb someone else before they become too big where the federal government might stop you from doing it. Or, you change with the times. And something as simple as letting ChatGPT every time ChatGPT or OpenAI or any AI searches your site, that counts as a search. You optimize it for AI searching your site because the information is still needed, right? We still want to search optimize our websites or everything and post those things. Google's just terrible at offering the right thing. So let's not even depend. Let's look at that. Google, you're no longer a search. You're not the primary search engine anymore.
There, the
Stop it.
trend, even if it's 1% dip, the trend is that, Google search is on its way out.
It's and they cannot prevent it. So
You
don't
can't
even
stop
try
it.
to. You can't stop it. AI is going to take over. So don't even prevent stopping it. How do you actually stay successful and move past this and still be Google after
Man,
this?
I think they're gonna have to pull an Apple and kill their product. Apple, for example, the iPhone cannibalized the iPod sales. Apple
Yes.
purposefully killed their own product for something that was better, right? And right now, Google has the most profitable business on earth is Google search by far. 100 billion, a lot of that is profit, like huge profit margins. But like, you know, it's antithetical to AI. The more they put into AI, the less
You know what?
like they're taking clicks away from like if you AI an answer, if you ask it an answer, like Google's whole business model is like, pay me dollars and I'll send clicks to your website. I'll send clicks to your landing page. I'll send the traffic to your thing. But with is AI is all about like, let me just give you the information. We've already had AI to scan your web pages. We already have
Right,
your data, and we'll just give you the data instead of sending you to the website. So
right.
like, and so the whole
And
business
it,
model is being turned on its head.
and the thing is, people ask AI, because I'm one of those people that ask AI, okay, what are the top three companies to go to for XYZ? I'll ask it, hey, you know, what is the average pay for the best soccer player? And this is something I actually did, right? Okay, now the best soccer player, what about this league? Okay, which league is actually the best league to play soccer in? Okay, since that's the best league to play soccer in, which team is the best to play soccer at that place? And I'll go down until I get to a point I'm like, okay, now I know all of that. Which
Hmm.
soccer ball is the best one to give my son so he can make X amount wherever I started at in the future, right? And then like, based on everything you just said, buy a Wilson ball, or something like that. And so the information you put on your website, the information you give out is the producer is still important. The problem is Google needs to now learn how to connect more with the producer and be a part of that instead of just providing the information. Like open AI is already going to provide the information. You can't survive that part, Google. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
And the incentive is backwards, the incentive for a website to rank on Google is insert the keywords everywhere.
yes,
It's make sure you have short tail keywords, long tail keywords, and the more you have, the higher you're going to rank. Well, now if you want what's the best soccer ball to buy? Now you have a 5,000 page article that you don't want to read. You
don't
just,
worry.
like imagine that, you want to know the best soccer ball to buy. And now like Google is incentivizing companies to churn out this AI SEO optimized slop, whereas and the company is paying Google to appear, higher, sponsored posts, YouTube ads,
Right,
etc.
right.
AI will just give you the answer. It's already been trained on the data that's available, and
Yeah,
it doesn't beat around the bush. It just like
yeah.
gives you the
And I
answer.
would say Google, I mean, this is the segment right now, Google, how to scale Google
How to
further.
scale Google?
How
Hey,
to scale Google
Google's
further.
tried
I,
everything.
I would say stick with what you know is working. What is working right now is YouTube. It's videos. AI is not at the point where it's gonna give you a video. What's this video on how to be the best soccer player? Isn't it? Not there yet. Will it be there? I'm sure it will. At some point. But for now, Google can be that video platform when a person wants a video, wants practical help, and wants to see it done because people seeing is believing, they say, even though it's not necessarily so, right? But people do love to see things, right?
Yeah.
So I think video, Google using and optimizing video will be their saving grace, probably. Only way.
Yeah, I agree. Scaling, scaling, like in the example, let's say you're like I keep thinking about Gym Launch, Alex Hermosi's business, or I think he still owns some of it, but he was talking about how he scaled, and it was the same process. It was like, okay, so I help gym owners scale their gyms. Well, if I were to scale, horizontally, I would start helping stretching businesses. I would start helping Pilates studios. That's scaling horizontally, right? Or he could have scaled vertically, which is, now I'll become a payment processor for the gym. Now I'm going to help the gym with even more things,
Mhm.
now, like now uh, and how he could have continued scaling it is now I'm gonna actually buy the gym, and run the entire gym from A to Z, so like, and at some point you reach so much saturation like Google has, where they own 90% of the search market. At some point, you've scaled as far as you can take the business. The total addressable market has been fully achieved, right? Like Amazon has the same thing for, e-commerce a lot. Well, actually, I read Amazon has like 46% of the e-commerce market. That's not 100%,
Right.
but
Yeah.
so maybe there's still a way to scale that. But like every business is limited by the total TAM and the products and services they offer. If they go more general, we help everybody. You could reach a higher TAM. Elon Musk is known for going after industries with very huge TAMs, which is literally everybody, right?
Yep.
Like, same for marketing agencies. Like, oh, I help everybody. I help every single person. So the TAM is everybody, right? But
Mhm.
let's say I only help franchisers. Oh, that TAM is a lot smaller. You could
Mhm.
charge more for it. So if you're an upcoming entrepreneur, if you go wide, you can, if you go wide and you won't be able to sell something as expensive, but if you go very niche, then you could sell something more expensive. And there's pains that come with scaling. But every depending on where you are how big the business is, like you can always unlock more scale by doing one, two, or three things. Either, hire more people to help you doing the sales calls, hire more people to handle the service delivery, and you can unlock more scale at every step. Same as for you. You were talking about earlier about how you were able to scale by hiring an appointment setter. Now that's something off your plate. Now you could focus more on getting more clients, on doing the calls, closing more deals.
Yes.
So each business is its own snowflake, and there's so many different ways that you could scale horizontally or vertically. But yeah,
I
we
would
got
say,
off on a side tangent there.
yeah, no, absolutely. But let's talk about like controlling the scale. So on that note, I think it's also important to control the scale. Mm, By that, I mean, sometimes we can scale up horizontally or vertically, whichever direction, and we are doing too much where maybe we are not in control and the business may be running rampant, and you start to experience that cannibalism that you're talking about. And to give an example of that, I was listening to Eric Thomas, and he was telling that when growing up, I don't remember what year this was, but the CEO of General Motors, they fired 15,000 employees. And then that same year, doing that basically the same breath, the CEO received $22 million, like either as a bonus or as a salary.
Hmm.
Right. So, and it was like, oh man, you know, you have $22 million to give your employee. And he's not saying this, he's saying that's how people are thinking. You have the lower class will think something like, oh man, you have $22 million to give your CEO, but you can't keep 15,000 jobs. It's not about keeping jobs. Like any business is about turning a profit. So
Yeah, a lot,
I
and
did
they
the
call that
math.
right sizing, right sizing. So a lot of times you could have bloat that's unnecessary. Like if you could produce the same result for the client at a lesser price, then you absolutely should do that.
Right. So I did the math on it, right? Because I was very curious. I'm a curious person. When you start talking numbers, I get all excited, right? I'm like, okay, let's do some numbers. So I was like, 15,000 people, making $20 an hour, working 40 hours a week. This generally $20 an hour. That is $6 million a week. She got whoever the leader of General Motors was, the CEO, got what, 3 weeks of pay to save them headaches of losing $6 million a week, because I'm assuming these employees weren't productive and that's why they got fired, right? The employees are not churning the profit that General Motors was expecting them to turn, right? If you're bringing in at least $7 million a week and you're costing the company six, well, they're making $1 million a week off of keeping you, unless they can prove, hey, if we get rid of them, you would actually make more than $1 million a week. You'll make more. Okay, there's there, but generally a company will keep you if you can at least turn them a 10%. Insurance companies, from the money they invest, they on average make 1%.
Oh, 1%.
One
Wow, that's
percent. They do all that work
all that work
to
just for
make
1%.
1%, but 1% of billions of dollars, we'll take that. We'll take that,
Yes,
right?
sir.
All day, all day. So, they may be on a good upside on the market. You're talking, okay, 2%, 3%, but that's bonus. We just want the 1%. So the same thing with business owners when they're scaling. We just need to turn a profit, at least a 5% profit or something like that, off of your employment.
Yeah, I like to side with the companies on stuff like that. Like,
Yes.
a lot of people don't understand about like right sizing. Like a lot of times you like those 15,000 people, like for example, when Elon Musk bought X, he laid off 80% of the workforce. Why? Well, because they weren't needed. Weren't needed. It was a lot of bloat, you know.
Yes.
A lot of times people will be like, "Oh, they're so heartless," and like, "Oh, he look at that. He gave himself 20 million and as a bonus." Well, if by right sizing, the company is more streamlined, more profitable, there's less moving parts, that's a big win for the business. And if
And
you
the economy.
generate more shareholder value by doing that, and if the company was able to be more profitable, more lean, and the stock price goes up accordingly, like that is a big win. You charge based off of the value that you bring, and the CEO generated in excess of the bonus that he got in value for the shareholders, and he should be rewarded accordingly. I
Yeah.
think that's fine. If that's fine, it shouldn't be demon.
Yeah, no, I think so. And it's also, it stimulates the economy as well. Because these companies are reinvesting in the economy, right? The when you talk about our biggest economical contributions come from some of these large companies. Not all, we know small businesses run most of the United States, right? When it comes to, because there's so many millions, and there's not many big corporations. There's a few of them, right? But we know small business make most of the business market in the United States. But still, we cannot downplay the contributions of these large businesses and how much they're giving back. And yes, they fired, 80,000 people, or 80%, sorry, 80% of the workforce. But that just freed you up to go start your own business. That just freed you up to go do something else. That just made you realize security is not security. People think an hourly paycheck is not, it's the most unsecure way of living, because you can get fired at any time when you're an
Yeah,
hourly employee. Especially those right to work states, that means they can fire you for literally any reason they choose, except the ones that go against the United States, what was that, Constitution, except
right
the
to work
Constitution.
states. I never even heard of that.
Yes, that means, so right to work state. I
There's
think Florida is one of those places. Texas maybe too,
Yeah,
where
I've let people go, for a lot of different reasons, but I never heard of right to work. Like I can
um,
get, are you saying you can get sued for laying someone off for the wrong reasons?
yes, in other states, some states you can. Yes,
Wow.
absolutely. Um, you have to prove probable cause for firing, basically.
Probable cause. He was
Um,
lazy.
right? Yeah, where there's state.
That's not a good cause.
I hope I'm saying it right. Right to work. I think that's what it's called. I haven't been a W-2 employee so long, but it's something of that nature, where basically you can fire somebody for whatever reason they choose, and I know it's state specific. Now, of course, you can't fire somebody for their race, sexual orientation, and things like that. Just the same thing.
Well, if one of my salespeople becomes trans, as an example, okay, well, I'm sorry to say, they're getting let go. Like, and are you saying I could get sued for that?
Yes, then that is a
Right?
constitutional thing, right? But we can definitely get sued. And now, if you say, "Oh, you're costing me a lot of money, and you are now I see you're spending money on these things, and that you have time, you're calling out of work because you're getting procedures done and all that stuff, and you're not doing your job, and this comes second to your life," then you do have the right to fire them. I don't think you definitely should be firing them. Oh, you're
Yeah.
black, get fired.
Microsoft is well known for laying off 10% of their workforce every year. Well, this was in the past, under Steve
Right.
Ballmer, 10% of the lowest performing workforce, and the 90% that get to keep their jobs are more incentivized, and they know that if they stop performing, that they're going to get laid off. I think that's perfectly natural and healthy. Same with the government. So in the United States, the executive branch can fire 5,000 uh, people, but if they lay off more than 5,001, then the federal judge can suddenly say, this is too many firings. You can't do this. We're going to stop all the firings.
Yeah.
That's the executive's prerogative
Right.
to decide how many people are needed for the federal government. And as you know, there was a lot of a lot of waste and abuse, a lot of just babysitting, a lot of people getting paid while not being productive and not doing anything but collecting a paycheck from the government. It's almost
Hmm.
like adult daycare, and
Yeah.
the federal government should be able to fire as many people as need be to run a smooth and efficient government.
Yeah, absolutely. People, you're a public servant. You're there to actually, keep the public's best interest at heart. So, that moves
Taxpayers'
me.
interest at heart.
Yeah, exactly. So that moved me to ask. I mean, what do you think, Jerry? What are some of the common mistakes business owners makes when scaling up, and how can they be avoided?
A lot of people hire when they don't need to. So, for example, hire when it hurts, like Sam Ovens says. Uh, if if it's not hurting and you're hiring for no real reason other than, it makes you feel uh you're basically wasting money. I think if let's say you hire an executive assistant where you really didn't need to, like in
Hmm.
that case, it's kind of maybe a waste of an investment. Or a lot of people, for example, they hire too many appointment setters and not enough closers, right? I know people that hire like 5 appointment setters and they have one closer. And so the setters are, fighting for the leads, and the performance drops so precipitously because
Hmm.
everybody's fighting for the same leads. It's real cutthroat, and like
Hmm.
that's an example of like scaling where you really don't need to,
Hmm.
like hiring where when you don't need to. Or let's say you're only generating your business is generating 20 sales calls a month, and then you hire a sales guy. Well, you're not generating enough sales calls for it to be worth it for the sales guy. You could do all the sales
Right.
calls yourself. He's not going to close as good as you. You're spending all this time training this person, and you're only generating 20 calls. It's not a whole lot. It's not a big opportunity for him, and it's a missed opportunity for you because you're a better closer.
Yeah.
No one's going to close as good as the founder. No one is as bought in as the founder, right?
Right.
So, in those instances, people hire too early, when they don't need to, right?
Mhm.
Like, what's the most high, revenue generating activity for the business owner? It's going to be like for an agency business, it's going to be doing sales calls and generating sales calls. Those are the only things that are going to scale the business. Doing sales calls, generating sales calls. And then when you've maxed those out, that's when you decide to hire when it's like, oh, I don't have any time to do service delivery anymore. I have too many sales calls. And the needle is moved when you do the sales calls.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
usually the first hire is going to be service delivery for marketing agencies. Then I don't have any time to do anything else. I'm always on sales calls. I'm generating too many sales calls. What a great problem to have. Now it's time to hire. So hire when it hurts. When it doesn't hurt, if it's not hurting, it's probably a sign that you probably shouldn't be hiring, you know. And it's good to systematize, if you're at that point,
Mhm.
to like, okay, well, I have a good system for doing the sales calls and generating the sales calls. You could outsource that, have a helper, have somebody part-time, you know. So yeah, there's different schools of thought, who should be your first hire, maybe an assistant, a lot of people say. Maybe it's a generalist, some people say. Other people, it's, outsource the service delivery first. But yeah, a lot of people hire too early, like you said. Has that happened with your business too?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely has happened with my business of hiring too early. We've done the appointment setter before, but it was not time for the appointment setter uh, because the important thing we didn't have in place, which was you were talking about service delivery, and since been having this conversation, made me realize, man, really, I didn't have service delivery. People also think, I think they look at hiring in terms of money. Who am I paying? But little do we know that we hire people without paying them all the time. Meaning, my wife, your spouse, your children that work and don't get paid for you. You do this, do that, do that. They are actually so wherever whatever you're making them do is really what is hurting. If they are committed to doing it consistently, sure, then that's your first hire. You get to a point where, okay, maybe you are paying them, right? And then you look into get like something like an appointment setter. Yeah, we've definitely hired, like I said, I've hired an appointment setter, come and find out, oh man, I can't maintain paying this appointment setter because, well, I still have to do all of the service delivery and trying to close the deals that I need to close and still deliver on the service. The hour that I was spending, 2 hours to generate the appointments, it was actually not that bad because the 2 hours that I'm saving still is not enough time for the service delivery, right? I need to save that 5 hours I'm spending on service delivery, that 10 hours a week I'm spending on service delivery, and put that into generating more sales call or maybe doing more sales calls. And that's gonna, really scale
Yeah.
the business.
Yeah, the business will get scaled, with sales and marketing, right? And like as an agency, even doing service delivery isn't exactly scaling the business. You will scale the business with service delivery by getting referrals and just doing a good job and word of mouth. The invisible hand is at play when you're doing service delivery, but if you're not generating calls or doing calls, then the business isn't getting scaled, right? So
Right.
if you could put more energy and time into those things as an agency owner, that is a great. It's the only way to scale, actually, just doing more calls, doing more
Yeah.
sales calls. Like you could tell how much a marketing business is doing by how many sales calls they're generating a lot of times. Like most of the time, if a consultant tells me, oh, I'm doing this many sales calls, oh, okay, what's your price point? Oh, okay, it's XYZ. Okay, I can kind of estimate how to a very good degree how many how much in dollar amounts they're doing per month, how much they're doing per month, just off of the number of sales calls they're doing. Oh, me and my team are doing 100 sales calls a month. Oh, okay, this business is scaling. They're probably at around this much, right? Because you generally in the high ticket space, the closing percentages are almost standard. 20% is pretty standard closing for a marketing agency. So, you could extrapolate how much they're doing based off of their close rate, their price point, and how many calls they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's super helpful. Super
Yeah.
helpful to know those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, tracking your numbers, knowing your numbers is, that's what it takes to really determine when and how to scale. And like you said, where it hurts. So knowing those pain points, this is where I'm hurting. These are my numbers.
Yeah.
And really honing in on that. And then, sit down and if you have a team, sit down and talk with, hey, is it time for us to, scale this way, that way, or, stay where we're at? Maybe we can do a little bit better of on the process. Maybe we just need to refine the system a little bit more.
Yeah. A lot of times every quarter, like big businesses, they'll get together with their team, their marketing officer, the person in charge of service delivery, the CEO. They'll get together and decide, okay, we're at 100 grand a month. Our goal next quarter is 150 grand a month. How are we going to get there? Okay, 50, and then they just work backwards. So, we need our goal is another 50K this quarter. That's, I think it's 17K a month. I don't know, my math is weird there, but
Uh,
okay, so if we want to generate another 17K a month, how many more sales calls do we need? Oh, we're going to need 50 more sales calls. If our closing rate is 20%, then we're going to need 75 sales calls a month. Okay, if we need 75 more sales calls a month, how much are we currently paying for a sales call? Well, we're running YouTube and Facebook ads. We're generating about $300 cost per call. Okay, so 75 times 300 is, this much. Okay, so we're gonna increase our ad spend next month by say 15,000 more we're going to spend
mhm.
on ads. Okay, what about the sales team? Our HR person needs to hire 3 more sales guys to take the 75. That's 25 calls per guy. So
Mhm.
okay, 25. So and so this is how the companies scale. So okay, recruit sales and recruiting. You're going to need to hire 3 more dudes or dudettes.
Hmm.
3 more people. We're the media buying department. We're going to increase ad spend. And so this is how they diagnose. Like
Hmm.
they work backwards from the goal. If our goal is 150 grand a month, we're going to need to hire 3 sales guys and increase ad spend by 5K per month,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
assuming all other variables stay the same. And they tackle those variables, during the quarter. But this is how the company scales. And then they address roadblocks as they come up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, Jerry. Well, guys, I mean, I hope this was helpful on scaling, and let us know in the comments any additional information here or anything that another topic. I know this was a lot. We definitely punched a lot of information in on this topic.
We went on a few tangents.
Yeah,
That's
AI
okay.
and a few things. So, if you guys would like us to go deeper into some of the topics that we did bring up this discussion here today, just let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, of course, and your thoughts. How do you guys scale a business? Have you scaled a business? What are some of the pitfalls that you've experienced, and what are some of the wins you've experienced when scaling a business? We'll definitely love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Comment below, like, share, and subscribe. And have a blessed rest of your day, everybody.
All right. Peace.